In your safety career, there are two versions of yourself 5 years from now. Same certification, same title you have today, but two completely different futures. In one, you are still a department of one, buried in paperwork, talked over in meetings that matter, watching people with less experience get promoted past you. But in the other, you've got a seat at the table. Leadership asks for your take. You're seen as someone who protects the bottom line, not just the person bringing up what everybody is doing wrong or pushing compliance. And your job is secure even when the budget isn't. Here's what nobody is telling you. The difference between these two futures isn't luck, and it isn't a degree, and it isn't knowing more regulations. It's a system, a specific one. So in this video, I'm handing you the entire map, the three things every safety lead actually wants, and the three things standing in your way, and the framework that closes that gap. This is the first in an entire series. So by the end, you'll know exactly what's been keeping you stuck and what to do instead. So if you're serious about turning your safety job into a safety career, stick with me. Now, if you're new around here, my name is Bri. I'm a certified safety professional, and I've spent the last decade training over 700 safety managers on the influencer systems and processes that build real management support and employee engagement. Today, I'm walking you through that entire roadmap, the two futures ahead of you, the three things standing in your way, and the framework that gets you from one to the other. But before I hand you that map, let me share my experience for a second so you understand where I'm coming from. So I have been doing safety now for over 27 years, and I have been lucky enough to work for organizations that love to buy other companies. Acquisitions was the norm throughout my entire career. So I had the opportunity to build safety programs from the ground up at dozens of locations. And I have had the opportunity to work with management teams that actually got it and understood the value of safety, and ones that saw me as a necessary evil. I even got locked out of one time for a good 18 months because I had done it wrong. So as my career progressed, I actually set my sights on VPP because I saw that as an avenue to really get that management support and the culture change that I was striving for. And I was successful at it. I got my location's injury rate down from a 12 all the way down to like a 1.5. We submitted our VPP application and were approved. And if it wasn't for the 2008 recession, we would have earned that star. So I left that company before that evaluation came to be. But in my next organization, I actually ran a support group of 20 locations to help them get to their VPP star as well. And 3 of them actually submitted their applications before I left. I had the privilege of working as an SGE with OSHA and going in and doing OSHA inspections and evaluations for the VPP program. And that was so eye-opening. Like, not only did I get to go into organizations that I didn't work at, which gave you more insight into different operations, but it let me see what OSHA thinks and what OSHA is looking for and how that operation actually works. Now, I did not start from safety. Like, that was not my first job. My background actually came from the hospitality industry. So I got a job very early on, we're talking teenage years, as a waitress in this restaurant. And then I got promoted into a front desk position at the hotel that the restaurant was attached to. And then from there, I moved into sales director, office manager, and very shortly after, I was the assistant general manager of one hotel and eventually became the general manager of multiple hotels. So that was my background, but this is what's crazy. So when you are office manager, general manager of a hotel, you're in charge of expenses. And what happened was one of my housekeepers, my head housekeeper, injured her back moving a barrel of detergent. And it upset me because this was a friend of mine. I'd worked with her for years, going back to my waitress days. And I was like, this isn't right. And then at the same time, the company came in and they were like, we need to do an evaluation. And I got to partner with my insurance company's risk management department, and they actually helped me set up a safety program. Now, they didn't call it that. They just said, these are the things you need to be doing. I didn't even know you need to have an OSHA log back then. But I basically followed their steps. They would come see me every couple of months. We would sit down, we implement something else. And the safety program at that hotel improved. But more importantly, my expenses dropped. And I saw the expenses drop across the board, not just my insurance. My employees were happier, both my restaurant employees and my housekeeping and my maintenance staff, my front desk staff. They were all happier. Nobody was leaving. Our turnover went to nothing. Everybody was just so ecstatic about the way things were going. And the only change I made was focusing on safety. So fast forward, when I left the hospitality industry, I ended up working in an accounts payable job because I'm really good at administrative work. And when I got there, I was there for a couple of weeks. And this is right when 9/11 happened. And they were in the middle of an EPA trial, actually. Like the EPA didn't just fine them, they were taking them to court. And they were preparing for the trial. So they needed some help. So I helped them out because I'm really good at admin stuff. And I was like, this is weird. You need a whole department to tell you to work safe. I thought that was very strange. And shortly after that, I got promoted into the safety department. And when I started to do the work in the safety department, I realized, oh my gosh, this is what I was doing at the hotel. And what happened from there is I then got promoted to be the director of safety over 22 locations, answering to the board of directors. And I had a full team of safety managers and driver trainers under me. It was amazing. But what I want you to realize is that I got there with no degree and no plan. I just did what people were coaching me to do. But when I got into that director's position, what you have to realize is that that company and that organization, they were really, really bad at safety. Like when I went in, when they were getting sued by the EPA, that was their very first safety person. And that safety person is the one that taught me a lot more, but their focus was really on regulations. They taught me to be the safety police, to go out in the yard and find damage to our vehicles and track down who caused it so we can write them up. They taught me that safety had to do all of the training. And I spent most of my time traveling to all 22 locations, training everybody. They taught me about documentation and covering your butt, right? And that type of attitude that you had to have, and that safety had to be a hammer, basically. And it worked. I'm not going to deny this is the way traditional safety is taught, and it did work. It got us down to industry standard in a relatively quick period of time. I'm talking like 18 months, right? But what I found is that once you get to that industry standard TCIR rate, that traditional safety method doesn't work anymore. You can't get it any lower. And when you're reporting to a bunch of stakeholders, they don't want to see a $300,000 claims cost or insurance cost, even though we got it down from 3 million to 300,000. They want to see it down to zero. But traditional safety management will never get you to zero because it's based on compliance in the laws. And compliance in the laws were never designed to prevent injuries 100%. They were designed to reduce serious injuries and fatalities. So more policing, more telling people what to do, more writing people up was never going to get me where I needed to be. And if you follow me for any time, you know that I talk about the fact that safety doesn't have authority. And I'm sure we'll get into this, that, we're not in the line of power. When I was the director of safety, answering to this board of directors over multiple states and multiple locations, I did have authority. Every person hired had to get approved by my staff, and I could fire people on the spot. So I was in a very easy situation, and I still couldn't get below industry standards. So the way that you go from industry standards to zero is by going beyond compliance. And what I learned, and what took me 15 years to learn, is that when you focus on the regulations, you get mediocre results. When you focus on the people and what's right for the people, and then influencing them to make the right decisions when you're not there, that's how you get to zero. So I wish so much that I knew this in years 1 or 2, not year 15, because it literally took me 15 years to learn this. And that is what I'm trying to do here at the Safety Geek, is teach people this concept from year 1 or 2, right? And if you're in year 10, that's okay. That's okay. I got you, my safety friend. We can still help you too. And, you can always change things regardless of how long you've been in it. But the key is that I got everything wrong, and I was still able to accelerate my career. But once I learned how to actually influence people and make those changes, not only did my career skyrocket, I felt so much better about the work I was doing. I enjoyed my work. It wasn't a battle every single day to convince people to work safely. It was a joy. I felt like I was actually helping people, which is a passion of mine. So that is my backstory. That is where I'm coming from. So let's go ahead and get into the roadmap. Now, real quick, before I map everything out here, I did put out a free guide. I call it the Safety Management Influencer System Guide, and it walks you through the exact cycle and the 3 pillars step by step. So you can start building this in your own program right away. So be sure to check out the link below, either in the show notes or below the video if you're watching this on YouTube. Now, here's the trap that most safety leads fall into. We are handed the responsibility of safety, but nobody handed you the authority to make it happen. So you try to enforce your way there, and it backfires. So let me show you why that happens and what safety leads who actually move up, what they do instead. So let's talk about how a safety department is actually formed. So think about any organization out there, even our big giant ones like Amazon or Apple or Facebook, right? They literally grew out of somebody's bedroom or garage or anything like that. So think about somebody making some widget in their garage and then they're selling it, right? So then they start selling more and more of their widgets and they get really busy. So what do? They hire help. Either they hire salespeople or they hire people to help them make the widgets, right? And those are their first hires. And then as they're hiring people, they realize, oh, this is too much work managing the people and the payroll. I need to hire HR. And then as they're making the sales and they got all these people, now they're realizing like they're getting some quality complaints. They're getting some customer service complaints. So then they hire customer service and they hire quality. And at this stage, they have a pretty good company running. And safety is likely being handled by operations and HR, maybe maintenance if they have a facilities department. That's how things are going. And what's happening is they either have too many accidents or incidents. The workload to manage safety is getting to be too much. So then they say, let's hire a safety person. So they hire the safety person, and all the stuff that they've been doing for safety, all the training, all the inspections, all the policies and procedures, all the claims management, everything they've been doing, they're like, oh, thank God we now have a safety person. Let me just dump all this stuff on them. Literally, it's a full-time job just managing all this stuff. So they dump all of this stuff onto the new safety person, and they say, you're in charge of safety. So you're hired to basically take the work off of somebody else. And the way that they see it is and keep us out of trouble from the regulatory bodies. So you're hired to meet compliance. You're hired to pay attention to the regulations, and you're hired to do all the work that nobody else wanted to do. And the problem is that your success, whether or not people work safe and whether or not there's injuries, like we're measured on insurance rates, accidents and injuries, claims costs, mod rates, right? That is how we are measured from a management standpoint. All of those things are determined by the actions of employees, supervisors, and managers who don't report to us, right? They all report up in their line of power up to the CEO. And if your structure's right, we report to the CEO too. So that operations director who's doing everything wrong, that's causing all the accidents, that's making you look bad, you're at an equal level with them. You're not above them to tell them, hey, you have to do it differently. You're at an equal level. So you have no authority. And this can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? So the good thing about it is that in order to get this operations manager to do what he's supposed to be doing, you have to influence them. You have to use a ton of skills and tools. Our toolboxes are overflowing with everything that we can do to try to get people to work safely, change their perceptions of safety, and avoid risk, right? So because we have to use so many tools, that turns us into like one of the most valuable people in the marketplace, in the job marketplace, because we have so many skills. I can't even name all of the skills that I gained from being a safety manager, even some weird ones, right? Like graphic design and web design, because I needed to create a website that my regional team could then come to and get their information from without coming through me, right? So it's like all of these different skills. That's the good part. The bad part is that we are not in the line of power. So because we're not in this line of power, when we tell a supervisor, a manager, or even an employee how to do things differently, there is no power behind that tell. So they don't have to listen to us. And you might be thinking, oh no, they have to listen to me or otherwise their manager's going to write them up. I hear that all the time. But when push comes to shove, one of the biggest arguments we always hear is production over safety. When push comes to shove, your little write-up or your little thing that you cause that write-up doesn't matter as much, right? So the thing to know about the line of power and how safety departments were developed, they gave you all of this work. Most of that work dealt with the employees and the supervisors. None of it dealt with the executives. But their actions are determined by what the executives and the managers and directors determine. So if you are constantly working at the employee level, you are never going to get to that, elusive zero injury rates or that amazing safety culture, because that always comes from the top. And that's the difference. That's the difference right there. Managing safety, meaning you're doing everything. You're not just writing the policies, but you're also the one telling everybody what to do. When you see a gap, you're just coming to them saying, this is what we need to do to fix it. When you see employees doing things wrong, you're the one correcting them. To influencing safety, which means influencing people to understand the why behind safety and the value behind safety. And we need to work within that line of power, changing the mindset of the executive team first so that it can trickle down to the employees. Because once your executive team understands the value and how much safety is adding to that bottom line, that trickles down to the directors, to the managers, to the supervisors, and then down to the employees. So that is what I mean by working within the line of power. So it is our job, and you might be thinking like, well, then how do we do that? It is our job to equip the line of power with the tools to enforce safety. It is our job to influence them to use those tools correctly. It is our job to demonstrate the value that safety is providing the organization and to identify any gaps or improvements that need to be made. And that shift from enforcing the rules day to day, like I know people have been in safety for 20 years and their day to day is walking around and correcting employees all day long. So that shift from enforcing the rules to influencing the line of power, that is the whole game right there. Right. And everything you're chasing in your career and makes everything that gives you joy within the job all comes down to that. There are only three things that you probably want out of your safety career, and only three things that are standing in the way of you getting them. And once you can see this clearly, everything about what to do next gets really, really simple. So, the three things that I'm assuming you likely want in your career is one, money, right? You want to support your family. You want to have a retirement. You want to be able to buy the things that you want. So you need to be paid your worth, right? And I don't just mean like paid like the average salary, but paid to the point that money is just off the table anymore. Like you believe you are definitely paid your worth. Number two is status. And status means more than a title. Status is a little bit more about like being respected for the knowledge and information and value that you're adding to the organization. Title is nice too, right? Because you don't want somebody who's got a director title, but you're working harder than them and you're at a manager title. So title is part of it too, but titles are constructs. And a lot of times organizations use titles in order to lower compensation. So yes, having a higher title is important to get you to the money that you want to make. But status means that like you have a seat at the table, you're listened to, you're brought into the conversations, right? And number three is job security. You want to feel secure that you're always going to be able to have a job, right? And it's way more than just like I can go apply for jobs and get hired. It's more about you being able to choose who you work for. Instead of them choosing who they want to hire, you can then look at them and during interviews, interview them because you know that your skills are so valuable and that you can add value to that organization that you're helping them by allowing them to hire you, right? So job security, that's what it feels like when you have headhunters calling you all the time, when you know that it's okay if you get fired today because you can have a job next week. When your network is so strong that you have people that are supporting you and that can fill in any gaps that you need. That is job security. Now, out of those three things that we are striving to reach, there are three things that are standing in your way. The first is overwhelm. There's just too much to do. Going back to how safety was added to the company, everything was dumped on you. There is too much for you to focus on for you to be successful. The second is you're likely feeling ignored, right? That you're saying things and people are either rolling their eyes or not listening, or worse, you're at a meeting and everybody is on their phone. And it feels like you're just not being listened to. And the third one is lack of confidence, meaning that you don't have the confidence in yourself to actually step up to either approach your management team differently or even move on to another organization. Now, all three of those things, those are not personality flaws. They're not things that that's just the way I am and I'm going to have to live with it. They're actually structural. And because of that, you can create a system that can fix every single one. There's a system that can fix each one. And when you have them in place, you have an engine. And then you have some influencer pillars on top that are driving that engine. So, how do you actually fix all three? It all starts with something that you're probably already doing and you just don't realize it. You are almost certainly running this cycle. You just don't see it as a cycle. which means you're doing it by accident instead of on purpose. And what I call it is the safety management cycle. And once you run it intentionally with the right systems, it becomes an engine that moves your program forward without you white knuckling it. So you're likely doing all the pieces of the cycle. You're likely doing inspections and training. You're likely writing policies, but it's all kind of scattered, right? And it's reactive. And there's no connected loop between the cycle. It's not cohesive in running itself. It's more like you're on fire and you're just like pointing the hose at different things. But when you run it on purpose, it actually runs smoothly and nothing falls through the gaps and nothing ever gets missed. Now, you might be thinking that this is the plan, do, check, act cycle that they teach us in safety management. And the PDCA cycle is way different than what I'm talking about in the safety management cycle. The PDCA was actually created as a generic, like, quality and process improvement loop. And we do run it inside of our safety management cycle. We don't call it that, but there are pieces of it in there. But you can't just run a PDCA and think that it's covering your whole safety program. The safety management cycle, when it is purpose-built for safety, it captures everything involved in safety, even the day-to-day recurring tasks or the month-to-month or the week-to-week, all the things to make sure that you're catching all of your gaps and you're not missing anything. It includes the people, the behaviors, the coaching. It's an ongoing operating rhythm, not just one improvement project. So hopefully you see that difference. So let me walk you through each of the stages of the cycle quickly. The first is identify. This is where we are identifying your hazards and your risks. And there are multiple systems that you'll likely have in place to identify hazards, such as audits, assessments, inspections, all that good stuff. Next, we take those hazards you've identified and we develop corrective actions. This is where we're building action plans to mitigate those gaps or fix those hazards or tighten up our processes. We're writing policies, we're building programs, right? Once we have that action plan set, we then need to implement that action plan and train people on it because most implementation requires training, right? So you're going to roll out that change of that corrective action. And you're going to train the people who are doing the work, and you're going to build awareness around the mitigation steps or the corrective action. And then our next stage is coach and observe. This is where we measure, is it actually working? Was our training effective? Did our corrective action close the gap of that hazard that we found? This is where we're watching behaviors and we're watching actions taken by our employees. Most of Safety Lead's time is spent in this stage. You're spending all your time coaching, observing, assessing, gathering data, right? And then in our next stage, that's where we're going to analyze that data. We're going to measure the results and we're going to track any new trends. We're going to trend that data and see what new gaps we can find. And then that leads us back into the cycle. Now, please remember, it is a cycle, right? Which means it's never ending. Never ending. Even once you get to zero, it is never ending. And because it's continuous and because we have all the right systems in place, nothing gets left to chance and nothing gets missed. Now, running the cycle well keeps your program alive, but it doesn't actually make you influential. For that, we need to layer something on top of the cycle that you're running. I call it the safety influencer system. It is 3 pillars that sit on top of the cycle and turn a functioning safety program into an influential safety program. This is what takes you from that safety manager to the safety executive. Now, the cycle keeps running and your program keeps running, but these 3 pillars are built into all of the individual systems that you have running inside of each stage of your cycle. So the first pillar is operational expertise. Now, this is first and foremost being great at your job, right? Understanding safety, having a good foundation. But secondly, it's being fluent in business operations. It's knowing how the company measures success and how to tie safety to it. So that way you can give a business case for safety. You can always talk about the return on investment of safety and have a continuous improvement mindset. So as we're doing inspections, as we are doing corrective actions, we are layering operational expertise on top of it. So we're not just saying you need to fix this hazard because somebody could get injured. We're saying you have to fix this hazard because this is how it's impacting the business. Now, the second pillar is hidden triggers. This is the psychology and the marketing that you need to know to actually sell safety. It's all about building real relationships and understanding how habits are created, how behaviors change, how you change perception, how you build awareness, and how you shape your message to actually sell it to your executives, your managers, your employees, everybody across the board. And we do this through little tiny psychological hacks built into all of our systems. A key one is collaboration, because when you collaborate with your management team and your employees, they now have skin in the game and they want to see whatever the initiative is succeed. Now, the third one is strategic engagement, which I also like to call covert collaboration, because collaboration is king. Like I said, it is a little psychological hack, right? But the thing about strategic engagement is that a lot of times we think that having employees participate in safety means something formal, and it doesn't. It could be small, little covert collaboration techniques that you're involving them in. It could be a question or two during your inspections. It could be running a continuous improvement idea in the break room for people to give you feedback on. It could be a survey that you send to people. It could be going to a supervisor and talking about a hazard you see and what they think about it. Strategic engagement is all about stepping out of the decision seat and being the one who is always telling everybody what to do, and instead being the facilitator and gathering information and presenting options so that way the leadership team can make the decision. Now, all three of these run inside the cycle in various steps and various processes within your cycle. And when you do this over and over again and you change your systems to include these influential steps, support and engagement happens organically. Their perception of safety starts to change. I've literally seen this happen in less than 6 months when you are running this correctly. Now, you may be thinking, that's great, but how does this fix the three things that were standing in my way to my amazing rockstar safety executive career? So let me connect the two so that you can see how it all works. Because here's where it all pays off. The cycle and those three pillars aren't just theory. They're how you dismantle the exact three things that are holding you back and trade them for the three things you actually want. Let me show you the direct line from being stuck in that management hat to being that safety executive, that influential safety manager. So each of these three problems within our pyramid here, each of these three problems have an exact fix for it. So if you are feeling overwhelmed because there's so much to do, then you actually need just more support and participation. You need other people to be taking over skills for you. Now, a lot of people think, well, that means I have to hire a team. I have to have a team of safety coordinators and safety specialists. That is not true, because in our influential system, we actually want other people to be doing the tasks to change their perception of safety. right? So when you're overwhelmed, we want to increase support and participation. And the way we do that is through one, building collaborative systems, building systems that are designed to collaborate with all the levels of your organization, from employees all the way up to executives. Next, we want to work on influencing and supporting the line of power. Our job is to equip the line of power with the right tools, influence them to use those tools correctly, and demonstrate the value of safety to the management team so that way they are encouraging everybody below them to be supporting safety as well. And lastly, we want to step away from decision making. No decisions in safety should be yours to make, or even one person's to make. We want all of the safety decisions and everything related to safety to run through the executive management team. So you come to them and you're showing them the health and well-being of the safety program, and you identify a gap and you go, hey, I collaborated with this manager, this supervisor, these employees. We came up with these 3 ideas. Here's the business case for each of them. Which one do you want me to go with? It is not you making the decision. And the reason why this is important is that when they have skin in the game, when they have autonomy to make the decision, they have then more pride in the outcome. And they also understand the purpose of it, that it's going to help the business. So they're going to stand behind you as you hit roadblocks, and they can help remove those barriers. Now, our second issue that we need to overcome is being ignored and feeling like nobody is listening to you. So the way that we fix this is first creating a data-driven safety program. So that way we have data. It's not just me saying it. It's not just my feeling. Here is the data to back it up. So you need to have systems in place that are collecting the right data. Next, we always create a business case for safety. Anything we want to do, there is always going to be a positive ROI for it. And we're always going to match it to their business goals. And lastly, we're going to have a very strategic communication cadence, meaning how information flows in and up the chain of command, all the way back down to the employees. So that way there's transparency in the safety program. Everybody knows what's going on, and you're being strategic about what you're sharing in a manner that makes sure that they're going to pay attention and listen to it. Now, our third piece is no confidence, and that you're lacking the confidence to actually step into that executive role or move on to a better company. And the way we solve that is through mentorship and community. It's first building up that braggable track record of results. Every positive thing that you now have this data-driven safety program to prove it. So you can stack up your wins and have that braggable track record of results to look to whenever you're questioning whether you are good at this job. Next, we're going to join networking, and we're going to get coaching and join a community so that way we can get feedback. And that way we can share what's going on and get information back. And we're not going to stay within the bubble of our one organization. We're going to go out and meet other organizations and, rub shoulders with people that are doing things differently. And next, we're going to have consistent planning and goal setting. We're not just going to hope that we reach our goals. We're going to set a plan for us to reach that goal. And we're going to look at it all the time to make sure that we are taking steps to reach that goal. Now, when you put all 3 of those together, the support and participation, the business acumen, the mentorship and community, when you put all of those together, you get to trade being overwhelmed, ignored, and unsure for money, status, and job security. That is the path to the rockstar safety executive. Now, every one of these fixes are broken down into steps in that SMIS guide that you can get down below. So make sure you click on that link and download that guide. So that's the whole map. That's the cycle and your engine. And the 3 pillars that build influence, and the 3 fixes that hand you the money, the status, and the job security that are waiting for you at the end. And I hope by now you hear the overarching message that I'm sending here. Safety is not an expense to the organization. Safety does not slow them down or cost them money or cost them customers or service. The safe way is the most efficient way. And this turns safety into a profit center. Safety adds to the bottom line of the organization, and it is your job to demonstrate that. So over the next several videos, we're going to be diving deeper into this roadmap. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that way you don't miss an episode. And we're going to talk in depth onto how the old ways are keeping you stuck, how to fix each one of the problems that you're likely facing, and how to build this entire system for yourself. Okay, so here's your next move. You now have the map, but glancing at a map just once is not going to do it. So click the link below, download the Safety Management Influencer System Guide. I know it is a meaty guide, but it will walk you through step by step, and it will lay out that entire cycle for you and the 3 pillars so that you can actually start implementing this week. It's free, and it is the fastest way to go from watching this or listening to this to actually building it. Your next step is to subscribe, because the next video, I'm going to show you why everything you were taught about safety is quietly keeping you stuck, including the wall that I hit that changed everything, and you don't want to miss it. So if you know a safety lead that is stuck in that safety cop role, make sure that you forward this to them, and then I will see you in the next one. Bye for now, safety friends.